Lieutenant Commander Amy Price stepped off the transport shuttle onto Kepler Station. The massive space station served as neutral ground for different alien species to meet and trade. It was supposed to be humanity's first embassy in alien space. Amy carried her bags through the airlock, excited to be part of this historic moment. The corridor ahead should have been busy with aliens from dozens of different worlds. Instead, it was almost empty. Amy walked for 5 minutes before seeing anyone. When she finally spotted a group of tall, blue-skinned aliens near a shop, something strange happened. They saw her coming and immediately crossed to the other side of the corridor. Amy stopped walking and watched them. The aliens kept looking back at her with what looked like fear in their large black eyes. They whispered to each other in their own language and hurried away quickly. "That was odd," Amy said. To herself, she continued toward the human embassy section. Along the way, she noticed more strange behavior. Shop owners saw her coming and quickly closed their doors. Alien families with children grabbed their young ones and rushed into side passages. A floating, jellyfish-like creature in a mechanical suit actually turned around and went back the way it came when it spotted Amy. Commander Ryan Clark was waiting for her at the embassy entrance. He was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes. He had been on the station for 2 weeks, setting up human operations. "Welcome to Kepler Station, Commander Price," Ryan said. "How was your trip?" "Interesting," Amy replied. "The aliens here seem afraid of me. I can't figure out why." Ryan's expression became serious. "That's what we need to talk about. Come inside." The human embassy was small, but comfortable. It had rooms for 12 people, communication equipment, and a meeting area. Through the windows, Amy could see the busy parts of the station in the distance. But near the embassy, every corridor was empty. "Sit down," Ryan said. "I need to explain what's been happening since first contact." Amy took a seat at the conference table. Ryan activated a holographic display that showed news reports from across the galaxy. "These are alien news broadcasts from the past 3 weeks, Ryan said. "Every major civilization is talking about us, but not in the way we hoped." The first broadcast showed a creature that looked like a walking tree. It spoke in a language Amy didn't understand, but text appeared at the bottom translating to English, the Yao. "Deathworld species has made contact," the translation read. "Military experts warn that these creatures survived evolution on a Class 15 world. No known species has achieved this level of environmental dominance." The next broadcast showed floating gas beings inside protective spheres. Their message was even more concerning. "Intelligence reports suggest the Deathworld species may be the ultimate predator race. They describe coexistence with Class 12 apex predators as normal daily life. Military preparations should begin immediately." Amy looked at Ryan in confusion. "Deathworld species, they're talking about us?" "It gets worse," Ryan said. He changed the display to show intercepted military communications. "We've been monitoring alien government messages. They're not planning trade agreements or cultural exchanges." The communications were frightening. Fleet movements were being reported across the galaxy. Defensive positions were being reinforced. Emergency meetings were being called by governments that hadn't spoken to each other in centuries. "They think we're going to invade them," Amy realized. "Not just invade," Ryan said. "They think we're going to destroy them. Look at this." He showed her a report from alien scientists. It analyzed human behavior based on the first contact meeting. The report concluded that humans were so dangerous they had eliminated most large predators from their own world through superior combat abilities. "But that's not true," Amy said. "We didn't hunt mammoths and saber-toothed cats to extinction because we were super warriors. Climate change and hunting with tools over thousands of years caused most extinctions." "Try explaining that to them," Ryan said. "Every piece of information about humanity gets interpreted as evidence of our military superiority." Ambassador Helen Foster walked into the room. She was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and a diplomatic manner. But today she looked stressed and tired. "Commander Price, good to see you," Helen said. "Ryan's been briefing you on our situation?" "Yes, ma'am. It sounds like the aliens are terrified of us." Helen sat down heavily. "Terrified doesn't begin to describe it. I've been trying to arrange diplomatic meetings for 2 weeks. Every time I mention something normal about human culture, the situation gets worse. She activated another display, showing her recent diplomatic communications. Yesterday, I tried to ease their fears by explaining human families. I mentioned that we keep dogs as pets and that children play with these animals safely every day. Amy nodded. That sounds harmless enough. The Centauri delegation immediately requested emergency evacuation from the station, Helen continued. They interpreted it as evidence that humans train their young in combat using domesticated Class 9 predators. Ryan pulled up another report. It's not just the dogs. When Ambassador Foster mentioned that human children play games like tag and hide and seek, the aliens analyzed these as military training exercises. Tag is military training? Amy asked. According to their analysis, yes. They think human children practice pursuit and evasion tactics from an early age. Hide and seek was classified as stealth and reconnaissance training. Dr. Kevin Stone joined the conversation. He was the embassy's cultural expert, a thin man with thick glasses who looked like he hadn't slept in days. The situation is actually getting worse, Kevin said. I've been studying alien cultures to find common ground, but every attempt at cultural exchange backfires. He showed them an analysis of human fairy tales that had been circulating through alien intelligence networks. They're studying our children's stories as military manuals, Kevin explained. Little Red Riding Hood is being analyzed as a tactical guide for operating in hostile territory. The Three Little Pigs is seen as a manual for defensive fortification techniques. Amy stared at the display. They think the Three Little Pigs is a military manual? The story describes humans building increasingly strong defensive positions while under attack from a Class 9 predator. Kevin read from the alien analysis. It demonstrates human understanding of graduated defensive strategies and the importance of proper construction materials in combat situations. Colonel Sam Turner's voice came through the communication system. He was commanding the small human military presence on the station. Ambassador Foster, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting major fleet movements throughout this sector. At least 12 different alien governments are repositioning their naval forces. Helen activated the tactical display. Red dots representing alien fleets were moving across the star map. All of them were moving away from human space, but they were taking defensive positions. They're not planning to attack us, Colonel Turner continued. They're preparing to defend against us. The problem is, some of these fleets are so scared they might shoot first and ask questions later. Amy studied the tactical situation. How many ships are we talking about? Conservative estimate? About 8,000 alien vessels across 40 different star systems, Turner replied. And that's just what we can detect. Ryan brought up another display showing alien news broadcasts. The situation was getting worse by the hour. Public opinion is turning against us on every major world, Ryan explained. There are protests demanding that their governments protect them from the human threat. One broadcast showed thousands of crystal beings gathering in what looked like a city made of living light. They were holding signs that translated to phrases like "Stop the Deathworlders" and "Protect our children from the predators." Another broadcast showed floating jellyfish creatures in their mechanical suits. They were fleeing entire space stations when rumors spread that humans might visit. The worst part, Helen said, is that we're not actually doing anything threatening. Every normal aspect of human behavior is being interpreted as aggressive. Dr. Stone pulled up his latest report. I tried to explain human recreation to help them understand we're peaceful. I mentioned that humans enjoy swimming, hiking, and camping. Let me guess, Amy said. They interpreted those as military activities too. Swimming was classified as amphibious assault training. Hiking was seen as long-range reconnaissance exercises. Camping was analyzed as field survival training for extended military operations. Amy shook her head in amazement. What about something completely harmless like music or art? Kevin's expression became even more worried. I mentioned that humans create music and art to express emotions and bring communities together. I thought that would show our peaceful nature. And they analyzed human music as possible psychological warfare techniques. The fact that certain songs can make humans feel different emotions was seen as evidence of sonic manipulation abilities. Commander Ryan showed Amy the latest intelligence reports. It's not just fear anymore. Some alien governments are starting to see us as an existential threat to galactic civilization. The reports showed emergency meetings between species that had been enemies for centuries. Ancient rivals were putting aside their differences to discuss the human problem. The Vegan Empire and the Centauri Federation have been at war for... Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human ship UHS Endeavour. He looked out at the massive space station ahead of them. The station was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It was shaped like a giant flower with 12 arms, reaching out into space. Lights of different colors moved along its surface like rivers of fire. Jake had dreamed of this moment his whole life. First contact with alien life. Humanity was about to meet other intelligent beings from the stars. The radio messages had been coming for 3 months now. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council. They spoke perfect English somehow, which made Jake wonder how long they had been watching Earth. Dr. Lisa Grant walked up beside him. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though until today no one really knew what alien life would look like. She carried a tablet full of notes and questions. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Are you ready for this, Captain?" she asked. Jake nodded. "As ready as anyone can be for meeting aliens, I suppose." The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in clear English, but it sounded strange, like it was being filtered through water. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at Bay 7. Please prepare for atmospheric adjustment. Warning, our standard atmosphere may be uncomfortable for your species." Jake pressed the reply button. "Thank you, Galactic Council. We appreciate your hospitality. Our life support systems can handle most atmospheric conditions." There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, sounding worried. "You travel without full environmental protection? This is unusual. Please confirm your ship maintains safe pressure and temperature." Lisa looked confused. Why would they be worried about our life support? "Maybe their ships are different," Jake said. But something felt strange about the conversation. The docking process took 2 hours. The alien station was careful about everything. They checked the human ship's air pressure 6 times. They scanned for dangerous materials. They even asked Jake to confirm that humans could breathe oxygen safely. Finally, Jake and Lisa walked through the airlock into the alien station. The corridor was huge, designed for beings much larger than humans. The ceiling was 50 feet high. The walls curved gently and glowed with soft blue light. They walked for 10 minutes before reaching the meeting chamber. When the doors opened, Jake stopped in surprise. The room was enormous, like a cathedral made of crystal. In the center was a circle of seats, but each seat was the size of a small car. 12 different types of aliens sat in the circle. Jake had imagined many things, but the reality was beyond his wildest dreams. There were tall beings that looked like living trees with silver bark. There were creatures that floated in the air inside bubble-like suits filled with purple gas. There were others that looked almost human, but with skin that changed colors like a rainbow. The largest alien, sitting directly across from where Jake and Lisa were supposed to sit, spoke first. Its voice was the same one they had heard on the radio. "Welcome, beings from the world called Earth. I am Council Leader Vex of the Aquarian Empire. We have studied your transmissions for many cycles. We must discuss important matters regarding your species." Jake stepped forward. "Thank you for welcoming us, Council Leader Vex. I am Captain Jake Morrison, and this is Dr. Lisa Grant. We represent the United Earth Government. We're honored to meet you." Several aliens shifted in their seats. Jake noticed they seemed nervous. Council Leader Vex's skin changed from blue to a worried green color. "Captain Morrison, before we begin formal relations, we must understand your nature. Our scientists have analyzed your world. The readings are disturbing." Lisa leaned forward. "Disturbing? What do you mean?" Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a tall bird with 4 arms and feathers that sparkled like gems. "Your world registers as Class 15 on our danger scale. We have never encountered a species from beyond Class 8. Class 15 is considered impossible for intelligent life. Jake and Lisa looked at each other. I'm sorry, Jake said, but we don't understand your classification system. Council Leader Vex touched a device on his arm. A holographic display appeared in the center of the circle. It showed different types of planets with numbers above them. Class 1 worlds are perfect paradise planets. Gentle weather, harmless plant. Life, no dangerous animals. Most civilized species come from Class 1 or 2 worlds. The display showed beautiful planets covered in soft colors and peaceful landscapes. Class 3 and 4 worlds have some challenges. Perhaps seasonal weather changes or animals that might be dangerous if provoked. Class 5 worlds require some technology to live comfortably. The display continued showing planets. Each one looked more dangerous than the last. Class 8 worlds are the limit of what we thought possible for intelligent life. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, difficult living conditions. Only the bravest explorers visit Class 8 worlds, and only with full protection gear. Lisa was taking notes quickly. So where does Earth fit on this scale? Class 15, said the bird-like alien. Its voice shook with what sounded like fear. Your planet has gravity that would crush most species, atmospheric pressure that would implode our ships, weather systems more violent than our worst war zones, and the life forms. The alien paused and seemed to gather courage to continue. Your oceans contain creatures larger than our battle cruisers, land animals that could destroy our cities, plant life that produces deadly poisons as a natural defense. Most terrifying of all, you claim to swim in these oceans for recreation. Jake almost laughed. You mean sharks and whales? They're just animals. Most of them won't hurt you if you leave them alone. 3 aliens immediately stood up and moved. Away from Jake and Lisa. Just animals? Council Leader Vex's voice rose in pitch. Your great white shark is classified in our databases as a Class 12 apex predator. A single specimen could devastate a Class 3 world. You describe them as harmless. Lisa was starting to understand. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Yes, Earth has dangerous animals, but humans have lived with them for millions of years. We've learned to coexist. Coexist? Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a walking crystal formation. Our data shows humans deliberately seek out these creatures. You have something called diving with sharks. You do this for pleasure. Jake nodded. Well, yes. It's actually quite safe if you know what you're doing. The crystal alien's light dimmed to almost nothing. Safe. You consider interaction with Class 12 predators to be safe. Dr. Grant decided to try a different approach. Maybe we could explain human culture. We've learned to live with Earth's challenges. We've developed technology and techniques to stay safe. Please, Council Leader Vex said, help us understand. How does your species survive daily life on such a world? Lisa thought for a moment. Well, we build sturdy houses to protect us from weather. We've learned which animals to avoid and which are safe. We've studied our environment for thousands of years. And the children? Asked the bird-like alien. How do young humans survive before they learn these techniques? Children stay close to adults until they're old enough to understand the dangers, Jake explained. We teach them gradually. We have stories and games that help them learn about safety. Stories? Council Leader Vex looked interested but still worried. Lisa smiled. Yes, we have many children's stories, like Little Red Riding Hood, where a young girl learns about the dangers of wolves in the forest. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. 5 aliens stood up quickly. 2 others activated what looked like emergency communication devices. The crystal alien's light went completely out. A human child, the bird-like alien whispered. Alone in a forest containing Class 9 predators, this is presented as a children's educational story. Jake was confused. Well, it's just a fairy tale. It teaches kids not to talk to strangers and to stay on safe paths. Safe paths, Council Leader Vex repeated slowly. Through territory inhabited by Class 9 predators. The meeting continued for another hour, but it became clear that every attempt to explain human culture made the aliens more frightened rather than less. When Lisa mentioned that humans keep dogs as pets and companions, she had to explain that dogs were descended from wolves. The fact that humans had domesticated Class 9 predators and welcomed them into their homes caused two aliens to request immediate medical attention. When Jake casually mentioned that humans enjoy something called extreme sports, where they deliberately seek dangerous experiences for fun, the bird-like alien fainted and had to be carried from the chamber. The meeting ended abruptly when Dr. Grant tried to ease their fears by explaining that most of Earth was actually quite safe, and that humans had eliminated many of the most dangerous predators from populated areas. The aliens interpreted this as evidence that humans were so dangerous they had driven other Class 12 predators to extinction through warfare. As Jake and Lisa walked back to their ship, they could hear urgent communications echoing through the station corridors. Words like threat assessment and emergency protocols were mentioned repeatedly. "I don't think that went very well," Lisa said. Jake nodded, watching as alien ships began moving away from the station. "I have a feeling we've made quite an impression. The wrong kind of impression." Neither of them realized that their simple, honest descriptions of life on Earth had just convinced the galaxy's most powerful civilizations that. President Elena Martinez stared at the holographic display in the White House Situation Room. Red dots representing alien fleets covered half the galaxy. Each dot was a group of ships positioned defensively around alien homeworlds. The pattern was clear and terrifying. "How many ships are we looking at total?" Elena asked. Admiral Jack Nelson, head of Human Space Intelligence, checked his tablet. "Conservative estimate is 15,000 vessels across 70 star systems. That's just what our long-range sensors can detect." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. 15,000 ships positioned against us. And we have what? 30 ships total in our entire fleet? 28 combat vessels and about 50 support ships, Admiral Nelson confirmed. "We're outnumbered almost 200 to 1. Director Nancy White, head of Human Intelligence Services, activated another display. This one showed intercepted alien communications from the past week. "It gets worse, Madam President. The aliens aren't just positioning defensively anymore. They're actively forming military alliances." The communications were disturbing. Species that had been enemies for centuries were putting aside ancient conflicts to face what they saw as an existential threat. The Vegan Empire had signed defense pacts with 4 neighboring civilizations. The Centauri Federation was sharing military technology with former enemies. Even isolated species were joining what aliens were calling the Deathworld Alliance. "They're calling it the Deathworld Alliance?" Elena asked. "That's the most common translation," Nancy replied, though some species refer to it as the Anti-Predator Coalition or the Survival Alliance. General Peter Davis, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, looked grim. "Madam President, our military assessment is simple. If these alien fleets decide to attack Earth, we cannot defend ourselves. Our entire military doctrine is based on peacekeeping and exploration, not fighting a galactic war." Elena rubbed her temples. The headache she'd been fighting for days was getting worse. "How did we go from first contact to facing a galactic alliance in just 2 months?" Ambassador Carol Johnson joined the meeting via secure communication from Kepler Station. Her image appeared on the main screen. She looked exhausted and stressed. "Madam President, I've been trying diplomatic solutions for weeks. Every conversation makes the situation worse." "Explain that, Ambassador," Elena said. Carol activated a recording of her latest diplomatic meeting. "Yesterday I met with representatives from 12 different species. I thought if I could explain human culture and values, we could clear up the misunderstandings." The recording showed Carol sitting across from a group of aliens. They looked nervous and kept their distance from her. "I started by explaining that humans prefer peace and cooperation," Carol said in the recording. "I told them about human art, music, and literature. I thought these would show our peaceful nature." One of the aliens in the recording asked, "Your species creates artistic expressions during peacetime?" "Yes," Carol had replied. "Art and music bring communities together. They help us express emotions and share experiences." The aliens had huddled together and whispered among themselves. Then their leader spoke again. "This suggests your species maintains cultural activities even while preparing for warfare. This indicates a highly organized and disciplined society capable of long-term strategic planning." Carol's voice in the present interrupted the recording. "No matter what I said, They interpreted it as evidence of our military capabilities. When I mentioned that humans work together to solve problems, they saw it as proof of our tactical coordination abilities. Elena watched more of the recording. Carol had tried to explain human families and how children are raised with love and care. The aliens interpreted this as evidence of systematic training programs that began in infancy. The worst part, Carol continued, was when I tried to show them that humans are individuals with different opinions and beliefs. I thought this would prove we're not a hive-mind military species. What happened? Elena asked. They interpreted our diversity as evidence of specialized military castes. They think different human cultures represent different types of warrior specializations. Dr. Frank Miller, the government's expert on alien psychology, joined the conversation. Madam President, I've been studying alien behavior patterns. Their fear of humanity has moved beyond rational assessment into something approaching religious terror. Frank activated his analysis of alien communications and behavior. They've convinced themselves that humans aren't just dangerous. They believe we're the ultimate product of evolutionary warfare. In their minds, Earth is a testing ground that produced the perfect predator species. Elena looked at the data Frank was showing. Alien religious leaders were holding prayer ceremonies asking their gods to protect them from the human threat. Some species were building underground shelters on their home worlds. Others were relocating their populations away from human space. This is insane, Elena said. We're not trying to hurt anyone. We just want to join the galactic community. Commander Julie Adams, monitoring alien fleet movements, spoke up from the Naval Command Center. Madam President, we're detecting a significant change in alien military posture. The defensive positioning is shifting to something more organized. Julie's tactical display showed the alien fleets beginning to move in coordinated patterns. Ships from different species were forming combined task forces. Joint training exercises were being conducted between former enemies. They're not just afraid anymore, Julie continued. They're actively preparing for coordinated military action. Nancy, White brought up the latest intelligence reports. Our sources indicate that the Deathworld Alliance is planning something they call Operation Final Assessment. What does that mean? Elena asked. We don't have complete details, but it appears to be a comprehensive evaluation of human military capabilities. They want to determine once and for all whether humanity poses an extinction-level threat to galactic civilization. Admiral Nelson looked worried. If they're planning to test our military capabilities, that could mean they're considering a preemptive strike. Elena felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Humanity had dreamed of joining the galactic community for generations. Instead, they had accidentally become the greatest threat the galaxy had ever imagined. What options do we have? She asked. General Davis reviewed their military assessments. We could attempt to demonstrate our peaceful intentions through complete disarmament. Remove all weapons from our ships and bases. Would that work? Elena asked. Dr. Miller shook his head. Based on alien psychology profiles, they would likely interpret that as either deception or evidence that we're so confident in our natural abilities that we don't need weapons. Ambassador Johnson spoke from Kepler Station. We could try complete isolation, withdraw from all contact with alien species and stay in human space. That won't work either, Nancy said. The aliens would see our withdrawal as preparation for a surprise attack. Their fear would only increase. Elena looked around the room at her advisors. So we can't disarm because they'll think we're lying. We can't withdraw because they'll think we're planning an attack. What can we do? There is one option, Admiral Nelson said slowly. We could try to demonstrate our actual military capabilities. Show them that we're not the super warriors they think we are. How would we do that? Elena asked. Invite them to observe our entire military structure. Complete transparency. Let them see that we have less than 100 ships and that our military is designed for peacekeeping, not conquest. Dr. Miller looked skeptical. That's risky. If they see our actual military weakness, they might decide to attack while they have the advantage. Or, Nancy added, they might not believe what they're seeing. They could think we're showing them decoy forces while hiding our real military somewhere else. Elena studied the tactical display showing alien fleet movements. The Deathworld alliance was growing stronger every day. More species were joining. More ships were being positioned. More resources were being dedicated to preparing for what they saw as inevitable conflict with humanity. "We're running out of time," she said. "Whatever we decide to do, we need to act soon. The longer this continues, the more convinced they become that we're a threat." Commander Adams reported new activity from the alien fleets. "Madam President, we're detecting something unusual. A large fleet is assembling at the edge of human space. Multiple species, coordinated movement patterns." "How large?" Elena asked. "At least 3,000 ships from 15 different civilizations. They're maintaining position just outside our sensor range, but they're definitely there." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Deathworld Alliance had assembled a massive fleet near Earth. They were either preparing to attack or planning some kind of major demonstration of force. Elena looked at her advisors one more time. "Recommendations?" Admiral Nelson spoke first. "We need to make contact with that fleet, find out what they're planning before they act." "I agree," Carol said from Kepler Station. "But we need to be very careful about how we approach them. Any aggressive move could trigger the very conflict we're trying to avoid." Elena made her decision. "Admiral Nelson, prepare our fleet for peaceful contact with the alien forces. Full transparency protocols, no weapons armed, no aggressive positioning. We're going to M." General Patricia Woods received the strangest military request of her career. The message came through official diplomatic channels from the Vegan Empire, one of the galaxy's 3 most powerful civilizations. They wanted to observe human military exercises. Patricia read the message again in her office aboard the Earth Defense Station. The aliens claimed they needed to understand human capabilities for mutual security assessments, but intelligence reports suggested something different. They were trying to figure out if humans were as dangerous as their reputation claimed. "This could be good or very bad," Patricia said to her aide, Captain Ben Carter. Ben was a Marine officer with 15 years of experience. He had volunteered to command the demonstration unit. "What exactly do they want to see, General?" "Standard combat training, search and rescue operations, and basic tactical exercises," Patricia read from the message. "They want to observe on the training station Olympus." "That doesn't sound too complicated," Ben said. Patricia looked worried. "Ben, you need to understand something. These aliens think we're some kind of super soldiers from hell. Every report we get says they believe humans are the ultimate warrior species. But we're just regular military," Ben said. "We do normal training exercises." "That's exactly the problem," Patricia replied. "What we consider normal might terrify them. But if we refuse to demonstrate, they'll think we're hiding something even worse." The Vegan Empire's observation ship arrived at Olympus Station 3 days later. It was a massive vessel, twice the size of any human ship. It stayed far away from the station, as if the aliens were afraid to get too close. Captain Ben Carter assembled his Marine unit in the station's main training bay. 20 soldiers stood ready for what they thought would be a simple demonstration. They had no idea that their routine exercises were about to reshape galactic politics. "Remember," Ben told his troops, "we're showing them basic training. Nothing fancy. Standard procedures only." Private Danny Smith raised his hand. "Sir, why are the aliens so interested in watching us exercise?" "Diplomatic reasons," Ben replied. He decided not to mention that the aliens thought humans were mythological monsters. The alien observers arrived in a small shuttle. Ben was surprised to see only 5 aliens emerge. They wore what looked like full combat armor and carried equipment that seemed designed for studying dangerous animals. The lead observer introduced himself through a translator device. "I am Military Analyst Kex of the Vegan Third Fleet. We appreciate your cooperation in this assessment." Ben noticed that the alien's voice shook slightly when he spoke. "Welcome to Olympus Station, Analyst Kex. We're happy to demonstrate human training methods." The first exercise was basic marksmanship. Ben's soldiers lined up at the shooting range and began firing at targets downrange. It was simple, routine training that every military did. The alien observers immediately began taking frantic notes. One of them activated what looked like a recording device. Another started scanning the area with instruments Ben didn't recognize. "Are your soldiers using powered armor?" Analyst Kex asked. Ben looked confused. "No, just standard uniforms and equipment." "They are firing projectile weapons without mechanical assistance?" "Yes, that's normal marksmanship training." The aliens huddled together and whispered in their own language. Ben heard his translator pick up words like impossible accuracy and natural weapon integration. The second exercise was urban combat simulation. Ben's team moved through a mock city environment, practicing room clearing and tactical movement. The soldiers advanced carefully, checking corners and covering each other as they moved. The alien observers moved further back from the training area. Ben noticed they were now watching from behind a protective barrier. "Analyst Kex, is everything all right?" Ben asked. "Your soldiers advance through what we classify as extreme danger zones," the alien replied. "They show no fear response to environments that would require full mechanized support for our forces." Ben looked at the training course. It was just a bunch of rooms with fake walls and practice targets. "This is basic urban combat training. Every military practices this." "Your definition of basic appears to differ significantly from galactic norms," Analyst Kex said. The third exercise was search and rescue. Ben's team practiced finding and evacuating wounded soldiers from dangerous areas. The scenario involved moving through simulated combat conditions to reach casualties and bring them to safety. What happened next shocked Ben completely. When his soldiers began the exercise, advancing into areas marked as dangerous to rescue their teammates, two of the alien observers actually ran away. They left the observation area and headed back toward their shuttle. "What's wrong?" Ben called after them. Analyst Kex's voice was barely a whisper. "Your soldiers deliberately exposed themselves to lethal danger zones to retrieve fallen comrades. This suggests either a hive mind species with no individual survival instincts, or combat conditioning beyond our understanding." "We don't leave people behind," Ben said simply. "That's just basic military honor." The alien stared at him for a long moment. "You consider self-sacrifice for unit cohesion to be basic behavior?" "Of course. That's what soldiers do." Major Sandra Lee arrived to supervise the next phase of training. She brought her squad for urban warfare demonstration. The exercise involved moving through what the humans called a challenging environment, but nothing extreme. The remaining alien observers watched in what Ben could only describe as horror as Sandra's team navigated through the training course. The humans moved through areas that the aliens seemed to consider absolutely deadly, treating them like minor obstacles. "Major Lee," Ben called over the radio. The observers seemed concerned about the difficulty level. "This is just standard urban combat, Captain," Sandra replied. "We haven't even gotten to the advanced scenarios yet." The aliens heard this exchange through their translators. One of them immediately activated an emergency communication device and began speaking rapidly in their own language. The final scheduled exercise was wilderness survival training. Sergeant Tony Green's team was supposed to demonstrate basic survival skills in a controlled environment. The station had a biodome that simulated a Class 4 world according to alien classifications. "Wait," Analyst Kex said as the human soldiers prepared to enter the biodome. "You intend to place unprotected biological entities in a Class 4 environment?" "It's just a training exercise," Ben said. "The environment is challenging but safe. Class 4 environments require full environmental suits and mechanized support for our species," the alien said. "You are sending soldiers with minimal equipment." "They have standard survival gear," Ben replied. "Water purification tablets, basic tools, emergency rations for backup. This is normal wilderness training." The alien observers moved to what Ben realized was maximum safe distance from the biodome. They watched through telescopic equipment as if they were observing a dangerous experiment. Lieutenant Maria Cruz led her team into the simulated wilderness. Within an hour, they had built shelter, found water sources, and identified edible plants. The humans moved through the environment with confidence and skill. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the humans not only survived, but seemed to enjoy themselves. Private Danny Smith was heard laughing as he successfully caught fish with improvised tools. Corporal Lisa Park found several types of edible plants and started a cooking fire. They are thriving in a Class 4 environment, Analyst Kex whispered. Without technological support, this should be impossible. The situation became even more incomprehensible to the aliens when the humans finished their survival exercise and immediately began playing games in the same environment they had just used for survival training. Sergeant Green organized a game of capture the flag using the same terrain that had required all their survival skills to navigate safely. The humans ran through the wilderness, laughing and competing with each other in what the aliens saw as a deadly environment. They used Class 4 survival scenarios as recreational activities, one of the alien observers said in a voice filled with disbelief. Ben walked over to check on the alien observers. He found them huddled together, sharing what appeared to be emergency medical supplies. Several of them looked like they were in shock. Analyst Kex, are you feeling all right? Ben asked. We need to return to our ship immediately, the alien replied. We have gathered sufficient data for our assessment. But we haven't shown you our advanced training yet, Ben said, trying to be helpful. We have combat engineering, advanced tactics, special operations demonstrations. The alien observers looked at each other in what Ben could only interpret as panic. No, Analyst Kex said quickly. No further demonstrations will be necessary. We have seen enough. The aliens packed their equipment hastily and headed for their shuttle. Ben followed them, confused by their reaction. Did the demonstration answer? Your questions about human military capabilities, he asked. Analyst Kex paused at the shuttle door. Captain Carter, your species treats as basic training what we would consider impossible military operations. Your soldiers advance into certain death without hesitation. They thrive in environments that would kill most galactic species. And, most disturbing of all, they appear to enjoy these activities. Enjoy? Ben said. Well, yes. Good training builds unit cohesion and morale. Captain Roy Anderson watched his sensors in disbelief as thousands of alien ships appeared on his display. The UHS Discovery, humanity's newest science vessel, had been sent to study unusual stellar activity in a system that was supposed to be empty. Instead, Roy found himself facing the largest fleet in galactic history. Sir, we're detecting over 3,000 vessels, reported Lieutenant Sarah Brooks from the sensor station. Multiple species configurations, all maintaining defensive formations. Roy studied the display. The alien ships were arranged in a massive sphere formation around the star system. Every known exit point was covered. It looked like the most elaborate military operation in recorded history. Are they positioning to attack something? Roy asked. Unknown, sir, Sarah replied. But they're all pointing their sensors at us. Back. On Earth, Admiral Steve Murphy received the emergency transmission from the Discovery. As commander of humanity's small space fleet, he had never imagined he would face a situation like this. 28 human ships against 3,000 alien vessels from dozens of different species. Roy, this is Admiral Murphy. Can you identify which species are present? Sir, I'm seeing Vegan Empire ships, Centauri Federation vessels, Rigel Consortium, cruisers, and at least 15 other species I don't recognize. This appears to be the entire Deathworld Alliance fleet. Admiral Murphy felt his stomach drop. The aliens had assembled their combined forces right at humanity's doorstep. This was either the beginning of an invasion or some kind of massive show of force. Discovery, maintain your position but do not make any aggressive moves. We're sending the entire fleet to your location. Sir, did you say the entire fleet? Against 3,000 ships? Roger that, Discovery. It's all we have. Captain Linda. Hayes commanded the UHS Horizon, humanity's flagship. She watched the tactical display as the human fleet approached the alien formation. 12 small human ships moving toward a force that could destroy entire solar systems. This is either very brave or completely insane, her first officer commented. Probably both, Linda replied. Open communication channels to the alien fleet. The response came immediately, but from hundreds of ships at once. Voices in dozens of languages created a confusing mess of sound until the translation system sorted it out. Human vessels, you will halt immediately and prepare for inspection, came the dominant voice. This is Fleet Commander Zex of the Deathworld, Alliance Combined Fleet. Admiral Murphy's voice came through the human fleet communications. This is Admiral Steve Murphy, commanding the Earth Defense Fleet. Fleet Commander Zex, we request immediate diplomatic contact to discuss this situation. There was a long pause. Then Zex's voice returned, sounding surprised. You request diplomatic discussion while approaching our position with your entire battle fleet? Steve looked at his tactical display showing 12 small human ships. Fleet Commander, I believe there may be some confusion. We're not approaching with a battle fleet. We sent our science vessel to study stellar phenomena, and we've brought our available ships to ensure peaceful contact. Another pause, longer this time. Steve could hear multiple alien voices arguing in the background of the transmission. Admiral Murphy, our sensors indicate you have deployed your maximum force projection. Your approach pattern suggests preparation for engagement. Steve realized the problem. The aliens thought humanity's 12 ships represented some kind of advance force or specialized attack unit. They couldn't comprehend that this tiny fleet was actually humanity's entire military. Fleet Commander Zex, I believe we need to meet in person to discuss this situation. There are significant misunderstandings that need to be clarified. Dr. George Clark, the Discovery's chief scientist, was listening to the communications while running stellar analysis scans. He was fascinated by the unusual readings from the system's star and wanted to gather more data. Captain Anderson, could we get closer to the star? These energy readings are remarkable. Roy looked at him in amazement. George, we're facing 3,000 hostile alien ships and you want to do science? Well, yes. This stellar phenomenon might be a once-in-a-lifetime observation opportunity. It would only take a few hours to gather the data. Roy shook his head but couldn't help smiling. George, only a human would want to do research in the middle of a potential war zone. Unknown to Roy, his comment was being picked up by alien sensors, monitoring human communications. The fact that humans were discussing scientific research while surrounded by an overwhelming military force sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. Fleet Commander Zex called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. Representatives from 15 different species gathered in the Alliance flagship's command center. The humans are discussing scientific research while facing our entire combined fleet, Zex reported. Either this is an elaborate psychological warfare technique, or they genuinely do not perceive our force as a threat. Commander Vlix of the Centauri Federation looked disturbed. Sir, our intelligence estimates suggested that humans would need at least 500 ships to challenge our combined fleet. They have brought 12 vessels and are requesting diplomatic talks. What if our intelligence estimates were wrong? Asked Admiral Wren of the Rigel Consortium. What if 12 human ships actually are equivalent to our 3,000 vessels? The alien commanders looked at each other with growing concern. They had assembled the largest military force in galactic history, and the humans were treating it like a diplomatic meeting. Admiral Murphy decided to accept the alien invitation to meet aboard their flagship. He took a small shuttle with minimal escort, another action that confused the alien leadership. The meeting took place in a massive conference room aboard the Alliance flagship. Murphy found himself facing representatives from dozens of different species, all looking nervous and prepared for combat negotiations. Admiral Murphy, Fleet Commander Zex began. We must discuss the threat your species poses to galactic stability. Steve looked around the room at the assembled alien leaders. Fleet Commander, I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding. Humanity has no intention of threatening anyone. We simply want to join the galactic community as peaceful partners. Your peaceful intentions are noted, Zex replied, but your capabilities suggest otherwise. Your species survived evolution on a Class 15 Deathworld. Your military training exceeds our understanding. Your cultural practices indicate systematic preparation for warfare. Steve tried to find the right words. I think you've misinterpreted what you've observed about humanity. Yes, Earth is a challenging world, but humans adapted to it over millions of years. Our military training is defensive in nature. Our cultural practices are about cooperation and survival, not warfare. Admiral Wren leaned forward. Admiral Murphy, your species keeps Class 9 predators as companions in your homes. You train your young using tactical scenarios disguised as games. You find recreational enjoyment in survival situations that would require full military support for our forces. Those aren't military activities, Steve protested. Dogs are domestic animals. Children's games are just for fun. We enjoy outdoor activities because we like nature. The alien leaders exchanged looks of disbelief. Commander Vlix spoke up. Admiral, you approach our combined fleet of 3,000 ships with 12 vessels and request diplomatic talks. Either your ships possess capabilities beyond our understanding, or your species has such confidence in its abilities that numerical disadvantage is irrelevant. Steve suddenly understood the problem. The aliens couldn't believe that humanity's 12 ships were actually their entire fleet. They thought it was either a trick or evidence of impossible human confidence. Fleet Commander Zex, I need to show you something, Steve said. He activated a holographic display showing Earth and human space. This is our entire military structure. 28 combat ships, 50 support vessels, and defensive installations around our home system. What you see here is everything we have. The alien leaders stared at the display in stunned silence. You're showing us your complete military organization, Zex asked. Yes, sir. Complete transparency. We have no hidden fleets, no secret weapons, no invasion plans. What you see is what we are. Admiral Wren looked confused. But your confidence in approaching our fleet suggests we approached your fleet because we wanted to talk, Steve interrupted. Humans prefer communication to conflict. When we see a problem, our first instinct is to discuss it and find a solution. The room fell silent. The alien leaders were processing information that challenged everything they believed about humanity. Commander Vlix was the first to speak. Admiral Murphy, you're telling us that your species faces our overwhelming military superiority with an offer to talk. That's correct. And you genuinely believe that conversation can resolve this situation? I hope so. That's how humans usually solve problems. Fleet Commander Zex stood up slowly. Admiral Murphy, your species continues to confuse us. You face impossible odds with optimism. You treat survival challenges as entertainment. You seek knowledge in dangerous situations. You approach overwhelming force with offers of friendship. Steve nodded. That sounds like humanity. We assembled this fleet because we feared you were the ultimate predator species. Zex continued. Instead, we discover you may be the most aggressive